Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the data to uncover what it truly takes to be the ultimate winner in NBA history. We're going to examine decades of basketball history, crunch the numbers, and figure out who genuinely owns the courts. It's a fascinating journey through time, so let's just get right into it.
If you're watching this, you've probably spent hours, maybe way too many hours, arguing with your friends about who the ultimate basketball GOAT really is. We all love to debate greatness, right? But what does the data actually say? Let's start with a provocative question. Does winning require being planted on the exact right team at the exact right time, or is it purely about undeniable individual dominance? Well, when we pull back and look at the entire history of the league, the answer is hidden right there in the championship data.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First, the ultimate franchise rivalry. Second, the Bill Russell anomaly. Third, the modern ring hoarders. Fourth, role players and rarity. And finally, number 5, the legacy of winning.
Chapter 1. The Ultimate Franchise Rivalry, the Boston Celtics and Los Angeles Lakers. Zooming out to the macro level, NBA dominance reveals an absolute, historic duopoly. The Celtics have finally broken their long-standing tie with the Lakers, sitting at 18 championships to LA's 17. Meanwhile, the San Antonio Spurs, who, don't get me wrong, are undeniably an absolute powerhouse dynasty in their own right, trail in a distant third with 5 titles. It really puts into perspective just how intensely Boston and Los Angeles have monopolized basketball excellence over the decades. They haven't just participated in the league, they've totally defined it.
Now, what's really fascinating about this context is that Boston's 18th title in 2024 didn't just end a massive 16-year championship drought for the city. It decisively shifted the entire balance of power in basketball history. For years, these two titans were literally deadlocked at 17 banners apiece. So this recent victory was a monumental milestone. It crowned Boston the solitary kings of the league and reestablished a standard of excellence that the rest of the NBA must now measure itself against.
Moving on to Chapter 2. The Bill Russell Anomaly, Dominance in the 1960s. 11. Wow! I just want you to let that staggeringly high number sit in silence for a second. 11.
That is the number of rings Bill Russell won between 1957 and 1969. Just think about the math on that for a minute. That's 11 championships in just a 13-year span. He was hoisting the championship trophy at the end of almost 85% of his seasons in the league. It's an untouchable statistical anomaly that makes him the ultimate lord of the hardwood. It's a level of individual winning that we have never seen since, and frankly, we're probably never going to see again. No way.
In the record books, the abbreviation BOS just repeats continuously at the very top. It proves how completely the 1960s Celtics hoarded those championships. You've got Sam Jones sitting right behind Russell with an incredible 10 rings. Then there's this massive tie at 8 championships featuring legendary names like John Havlicek, Tom Heinsohn, Casey Jones, and Tom Sanders. When we asked earlier if winning is about being embedded in the right ecosystem, well, this concentration of victory happening all at once on one single roster absolutely screams yes.
Chapter 3. The Modern Ring Hoarders, 90s Legends versus Today's Superstars.
You know, we constantly debate LeBron versus Jordan or Steph Curry's lasting impact on how the game is played. Putting these eras side by side creates a really fascinating contrast. Household names like LeBron James and Stephen Curry have an incredible 4 rings each, which is an undeniable historic mark of modern greatness. Yet they still trail behind 90s and 2000s legends like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen who have 6, or Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan with 5. It really shows us that even as the game rapidly evolves and scoring explodes, reaching that upper echelon of 5 or 6 rings remains an incredibly elusive feat in the modern era.
Which brings us to Chapter 4. Role players and rarity, the unsung heroes of dynasties.
Because winning isn't exclusively reserved for the marquee MVP-level superstars. Actually, there's a fascinating wait who factor hidden deep within the championship data. Take Robert Horry, for example. His unique timeline tracks across 3 entirely different franchises. He started with the Houston Rockets in '94, moved out to the Lakers in 2000, and grabbed more titles with the Spurs through 2007. He managed to accumulate a staggering 7 championships as the ultimate outlier role player. It's like he had this incredible, almost sixth sensibility to perfectly insert himself into championship ecosystems right as they peaked.
And you absolutely cannot ignore lesser-known but highly decorated players like Jim Loscutoff, who quietly collected 7 rings with Boston, or Gene Guerrilla and Pep Saul, each with 4 championships to their names. Amazingly, Pep Salt managed to win his across both the Rochester Royals and the Minneapolis Lakers back in the early 1950s. It just goes to show that you don't have to be the superstar scoring 30 points a night to cement your legacy in the history books. Sometimes being the ultimate, highly functional puzzle piece in a winning ecosystem is just as powerful.
Chapter 5. The Legacy of Winning. From Baltimore to Boston.
As we synthesize all of this data together, let's just appreciate the sheer scale of the NBA's timeline. We've tracked history spanning nearly 80 years of basketball. We went from the Baltimore Bullets taking the title way back in 1948, through the absolute single-team monopoly of Bill Russell's Celtics, past the 90s legends all the way to Boston's historic 18th banner in 2024. Across all those decades, the formula for winning has evolved dramatically. It shifted from those absolute team monopolies to the modern era's intensely competitive and honestly, somewhat more balanced landscape.
Which leaves us with this final thought. Considering Boston's recent victory finally breaking the long-standing tie with LA and Bill Russell's untouchable 11 rings sitting high above everyone else, is the era of extreme decades-long dynasties completely behind us? Or are we simply waiting for the next legend to emerge and take the throne? Think deeply about that the next time you're watching the playoffs unfold. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes on the hardwood.